Hi, I'm your host, Michelle Poverman, a former anxious empath turned mostly grounded psychotherapist, intuitive guide, and energy healer, and this is Into the Work. And it isn't just a podcast. It's your actual invitation to break free from old patterns, end the cycle of your self-abandonment, and finally step into the life your soul has been craving. Each episode is a spark to help you rise higher, to help you shine brighter and reclaim the truth of who you really are. The spark has already been lit. And sister, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's go ignite a fire. Hi, this is Michelle Poverman. Welcome back to the show. Today, we are going to talk about something pretty deep and so often unspoken about. And that is these wounds that quietly shape how we show up, how we love, the way we lead, the way we expand, all of it. And if you've ever felt yourself shrinking, dimming your magic, holding back your brilliance, trying to quiet yourself in the room because you didn't want to be too much, this episode will land in your heart. Because as I go through these three wounds, the mother wound, the sisterhood wound, and the success wound, I really want to ask you to open up your heart, open up your mind, receive this information, and allow yourself to be with whatever your truth is. Not all of these necessarily are going to be yours to own, but likely two of them will be, because it's usual for these things to happen in at least pairs. It's unusual for you to have one wound and not another. So let's talk about this. So let's dive into these three invisible emotional patterns, which, by the way, can be repatterned, just to be the beacon of hope. These wounds aren't personal flaws. They are inherited survival strategies. Okay, so first we're going to frame that. And today we're naming them so you can begin to release them. So take a breath, ground your energy, and let's go deeper here. Number one, I just want to say out loud what it means when I say playing small, because that's what I titled this, right? The hidden wounds keeping you small. And most of us know what that means, but just really briefly, I just want to say out loud so we are all understanding this correctly together, that playing small, again, isn't a character issue. It's protective. It's you protecting yourself. And it's an old, little T maybe, big T, I don't know, but it's an old trauma response. And when we play small, we downplay our gifts. We avoid being seen. We make ourselves responsible for other people's comfort because they were trying to get established as safe, right? Valuable. We overgive, we overthink, we overexplain, all protective patterns. A lot of times we choose harmony over authenticity, and we push our desires way down on the list. But really, when we talk about playing small, a lot of times we equate being seen as dangerous. And many times when we talk about playing small, we're talking about your nervous system truly equating visibility with danger. Somewhere along the line, you may have learned that if I'm too loud, if I'm too emotional, if I'm too ambitious, if I'm too even intuitive maybe, right? Someone will be upset or they'll leave. Or they will abandon you or disengage with you or do something that feels upsetting. So playing small kept you safe once. But hear me, sister, it does not serve you now. So let's explore the wounds underneath this pattern. And I'm going to argue, you're going to hear me argue, that it's not serving any of us for you to play small because we need you. And we're going to talk about that too. So the mother wound, let's talk about the mother wound. So first of all, it forms when we internalize the belief that love, approval, belonging, it must be earned through caretaking, pleasing, and being good. Those are very common ways that the mother wound expresses itself. It can show up as guilt when prioritizing yourself, right? You ever feel guilty when you prioritize yourself, especially over family members or other people, friends, fear of disappointing others, feeling safest when you are unproblematic, totally agreeable, or quiet, right? If you find yourself feeling really good about being super easy and agreeable for people, this can be, I'm not saying it is, but it's just a way that having a mother wound expresses itself. Difficulty trusting your own needs and your intuition, and always checking if someone is upset with you. This wound often comes from mothers who are overwhelmed, emotionally unavailable. Maybe your mom was critical. Your mom just modeled, you're right? She lived in her own world of self-sacrifice all the time because she had a mother wound. Because this can just simply be being passed down. It may not even be that your mother falls into any of these categories. And why do we blame the mother wound, right? Why do we always got to blame the mom, right? Because dads contribute. I have worked with so many women and found that I think because we are women, we attach and we express that attachment to our moms differently than we do with our dads. And so having a dad who is critical and explosive and unwell is going to impact you, yes. And we'll call that the dad wound, but it is different than the mother wound because the mom is the feminine connection you have to love. And these messages that you received are a really important part of how you're playing out your own way of being in the world and loving in the world. So obviously these things can lead to chronic people-pleasing and losing yourself in relationships, waiting for permission, needing external validation to feel safe, all those things we've talked about a million times, but they all can be things that are occurring because of this mother wound. And what it means to heal the mother wound really truly means reparenting yourself. And that is really giving yourself whatever you did not receive. And now I don't know exactly what you didn't receive, but I do know that giving yourself the validation and the love and the freedom, and you do that consistently, really can allow your inner authority to grow stronger than your fear of disappointing other people. And so really leaning in and saying, okay, if I'm going to reparent myself, what does it mean to have an inner parent? What could that look like for you? If you think about like the mom that you had, and if there was anything, even the perfect mom, because there is no perfect mom, right? Even the mom who was a great mom wasn't perfect. I'm a mom and I am not perfect, and my kids could definitely be in therapy for me too, right? Like there's no perfection. And so even if you had a good enough mom, or if you had to imagine a childhood where you felt the most incredible love, if you felt the most incredible like sense of connection, that they were obsessed with how incredibly in love they were with you, if they felt, if you were able to absorb and feel and be, receive with safety, truly being adored and accepted and valued for who you are at your core. And just really, if your mom was able to do that, bravo, right? Because we're all dealing with, this culture that we live in. And I won't say most, but many of the times that our moms show up differently than that, a lot of times it's because they are scared for us, right? So they get perfectionistic with us and critical because they fear, right? I'm going to show you your imperfections so you fix them so that you'll be loved, because they live in a world where it's conditional too. So they're also have gone through this system that we're all gone through here in our culture. And so they're showing up imperfectly that way. But for you to recognize what you would have loved for it to be like, and then give that to yourself. Like my guess is it's true radical self-love and acceptance, and inner parenting is like, that's okay. Think about when you were little, like a lot of kids, as they start to get older into their preteens and 10, 12, up and above, a lot of times you'll hear kids say, oh, it was so much easier when I was little. Mom was so nice. Mom was just so much more like loving and it's okay, honey. Are you all right? Right. And now it's like, why did you do that? That's so dumb. And so I want you to just think about if you could have been continuously treated with the same level of love, as maybe you were even as a toddler, right? So what could that be like, and how you show up for yourself, radically accepting yourself and loving yourself and valuing yourself no matter what? Okay. So let's talk about the sisterhood wound. This one's big. This wound forms when relationships with other women felt unsafe, when they felt competitive or judgmental or conditional. And seriously, I really believe this one's big. It runs deep. It shows up as fear of being judged or excluded. It shows up as discomfort around confident or powerful women. Like you just feel smaller around them. You shrink a little bit. Mistrust of female groups or communities. Comparison that drains your joy. I mean, right? When you're scrolling, tell me there aren't times you're like, oh, look what she's doing, or look what she has, and what's wrong with me? And then feeling safer around men than women. But I have worked with so many women who will come in and they'll say, yeah, I didn't really do the whole girl friendship thing. Like the girls were mean. And so I just find boys and men easier to deal with. So, and just think how sad that is, right? Think about how sad that is, that lots of women would just choose to not connect with other women because it's not safe. It doesn't feel good. It's not easy. And then shrinking your gifts to avoid triggering jealousy for other people. So, of course, we all hate that word jealousy. None of us want to admit to feeling jealous. Jealousy is about, the thing you're jealous about is the thing you don't allow yourself to be. So because you're blocking your true potential, you're jealous of when you see it out there in the world. And that's really what jealousy is. It's a mirror, but we don't like it. And here we are. And you're shrinking your gifts to avoid triggering jealousy in other women because you know what that is. You believe other women will be jealous because you've experienced jealousy of other women. So here's the deeper truth. For generations, women were conditioned to compete, okay? Like compete for approval, resources, proximity to power. And patriarchal systems, I'm going to say it, rewarded obedience, comparison, and beauty as currency, right? So women were punished for being too bold, too successful, too outspoken, too free. I mean, hello, Salem witch trials, right? Like we could talk about this forever. When the witch trials ended, I did a whole paper on this in grad school. And when the witch trials ended, that's when the first asylums started popping up everywhere. And now husbands are dropping their wives off to asylums saying they were mentally ill, and they were literally chained to the walls. Look at Sylvia Plath, right? A poet who stood out and was taken away. So we have a history here that has added to this. And I'm not going to go any further into it, but it needs to be said out loud that we have punished women who were too bold and too successful. And women are taught that safety came from fitting in, not standing out. And when women compete with each other, they're also too distracted, too exhausted, or disconnected to access any type of collective power. So just let that land a little bit, right? The more we are divisive with each other, the less we are in terms of our connected power. And, who benefits from that? And so add on any childhood experiences, mean girls, exclusion, gossip, betrayal. And the nervous system learns that women are not safe, that belonging is conditional, that like being seen equals being judged. And you may crave deep connection with other women, but feel anxiety in groups or circles. It's crazy, right? I used to be somebody who I was like kind of a weird. Like when I was in college, I've actually shared this. I don't know if I've shared this here or not, but I used to like want to go up to women and shake their hands and say hello. And I would go to parties, like keg parties, and I'd be at a keg party and there'd be a group of women there. And I'd be like, oh, sisters, right? I would walk over to them and put my hand out and say, hi, I'm Michelle. and introduce myself like I am running for office. No joke. My friends were like, please, Michelle, put your hand back in your pocket. Please be cool, right? That's how I was. And then there came a time where I started realizing that like these girls are kind of mean. And not that I didn't have mean experiences with girls when I was younger, but somehow I just became very resilient in it. I just like didn't let it shape me. And I just went out and into the world thinking everybody wants to shake my hand. Everybody wants to meet me. And so I really had to learn, okay, that's not cool. Don't walk up to a group of girls at a keg party and put your hand out to shake their hands and say, hi, I'm Michelle. Because maybe, just maybe, they are wanting you to shrink. They're wanting you to not be so bold. They want you to be a little bit weary of them. They want you to mistrust them because they don't trust you. And they are ready to judge you because you just stood out. And now they're like looking at who's watching, right? And so there's all these things happening. And we crave connection with other women. And that's truth. We do. And I know it. And even if you for years have dulled that and say, nah, I just don't bother. But we do, many of us feel anxious about fitting in. And you may admire other women, but fear becoming like them, right? You might admire those bold women, but really fear being seen as bold and judged, really. And you may avoid collaboration, community, or visibility because your body just remembers like that old pain. So it doesn't really join. I'm not a joiner. I've said that for years because that is my pain response, going up and showing up and trying to join and being rejected. Sure. And so here's the wisdom I want to bring forward today. That sisterhood wound didn't start with you. And it didn't start with those girls that didn't want to shake my hand either. It's inherited. And the healing begins when you choose safe, aligned, emotionally grounded women, and let yourself be supported without falling into comparison or competition. Like, listen, I'm just going to say this. You'll probably hear me say this a couple times today. But if you look around your friend group at the women in your life, and if you see hierarchy, if you see mean girlness, right? If you see judgment and anxiety and comparisonitis and competition, you're in the wrong group. You're in the wrong group. The only way to clear it out is to truly step away from it. And I'm not telling you what to do, but I do want you to build safety in yourself and to strengthen yourself into knowing that you deserve better than that and that there is better than that available to you. And we just need to acknowledge that nobody's going to be perfect at this, but you got to find other women that are acknowledging it and want it, that want to have beautifully aligned and safe and supportive relationships. So if you find yourself in anything other than that, then this is your wake-up call. The next wound is the success wound. Now, this is the wound that developed when success, or even the desire that you might have had to be successful, right, for success, was met with judgment, with shame, or fear in your upbringing. Signs of success wound include fear of outshining the people you love, fear or guilt for wanting more money, freedom, or visibility, which, by the way, without money and without sometime freedom and without visibility, you cannot make a difference in this world, right? Like the way you're going to make the biggest impact in this world and do the thing that you're here to do is truly with these things. So the more successful you are, the more likely you're going to have an opportunity to truly impact people. So just to put that out there, we also are worried about sabotaging our opportunities because we do. We sabotage our opportunities. Opportunities come, but when you have a success wound, when you fear success, you will sabotage this opportunity. And a lot of times the success wound, which I haven't mentioned here, can also become about your fear of it being too big and your fear of things getting out of control and your fear of not being able to have the boundaries necessary to communicate what your limits are. And so those of us who struggle with boundaries do struggle with the success wound sometimes because we don't know, we don't trust ourselves to be able to make it safe and to make success work for us. So many of us that do struggle with boundaries are more likely to struggle with the success wound. And so also undercharging or shrinking in your business, that's a success wound. Believing that expansion will make you unlovable or alone, that's a big one, right? And this can be a sister wound thing too, but the success wound is like believing that expansion, that if I start getting bigger in the world and I start putting myself out there and I start having success, suddenly I will be different than the people I'm closest to. They will see me as other, and I will be more alone, and people won't relate to me anymore. And so I'll be unlovable. And the only way that's truly happening is if you yourself make your ego so big that you decide you're too good for other people, or the sisterhood wound is hit and people are struggling with that, with your expansion and your success. And they feel their own jealousy or their own stuff. And we cannot control that. The best thing you can do is address it and communicate your desire for this friendship to grow and to expand with your own success expansion, and to try to come to a way of communicating the feelings that might come up with that. And also just associating success with danger, right? That I'll be way too visible, I'll put myself out there too much. It'll be like very possible that that's going to come back at me in some way. And so many women internalize these scripts, like these thoughts that we have with ourselves. Like you've probably been told, like, be humble, don't brag, don't get too big for your britches, my grandmother used to say. Who do you think you are? Anyway, that's our internal voice, I think. But if you do too well, people will hate you. They're just going to hate you. People don't like people who do too well, right? Those are the thoughts we have or the beliefs we have, right? These like internal scripts that we have going that like people don't like people that are successful. I mean, look at how we treat our celebrities, right? Like we tear them apart. Trolls all over the internet. Some of us say until you've been trolled, you haven't really made it. But the truth is, like, that's going to happen. People will immediately look at you and judge you and be critical, but those aren't your people, right? And so these messages teach the body that staying small is safer than being seen. I have truly worked with women. I have clients that are so afraid of putting themselves out there because they don't want to be trolled. They don't want somebody to say something like negative about them or their appearance or whatever. And they are just like, I just can't tolerate that. And so we have to do the work and look at that as, why can't I tolerate that, right? What is that about for me that I can't tolerate the idea that someone's out there judging me? And that's really important work to do. Because we really need to have a deeper connection to the truth, which is it has absolutely nothing to do with you. And that is part of the work and part of letting go. But this wound is powerful because visibility brings attention, and attention often feels super threatening for some people. So healing the success wound means expanding your capacity to receive, allowing yourself to want what you want. I know you've heard me say this before, but wow, is it crazy how difficult it is to ask a woman what she wants sometimes. A lot of times it's met with, I don't know. Like, I really don't know, Michelle. Like, I don't know how to access that information. And then we feel kind of stupid about it. We feel kind of bad about it. Like, why don't I know what I want? But it's a really important thing for us to figure out. And your success wound is keeping you from stepping into your power, as I like to say, and owning what you want and communicating what you want. And in the midst of all this, also, we have to rewrite the story that success is going to cost you connection. It doesn't have to. But one thing I will say about that is that if all the people around you, right, are at a certain vibration, let's say, they're at a lower vibration and they gossip and they really have strong ceilings of like how successful they can be, right? Maybe their upper limit ceiling is like, this is my life, it's always going to be this way. Or maybe they really are trapped at where they're at in life. If that's the energy of the friendships you have, and then you go and soar and become something, again, you might vibrate a little too high and you might vibrate right out of their lives, not because it's because of something wrong that you're doing. It's just that in some level of your story, on this path, your journey, there are people who are meant to take up certain amounts of space, certain time frames. Some of it is seasonal. Some of it can be 15 years. And it's okay if that timeline changes from what you think, because it's not that it wasn't incredible and beautiful and full of so much goodness, but it is perhaps time. If success costs you connection, it's likely, if you're being honest and you're being real and you are willing to stay connected and it doesn't work, if you're finding that it brings you down, then it's just that the timeline has stopped and it's time to move forward, and it's okay. There's stuff on the other side, and there also could be reconnection later. It really just amplifies your ability to serve out in the world. So it's not that success separates you from people you love. It just highlights the shifts and changes that are happening in the evolution of your friendships. And it's okay for timelines to change and for things to shift. And it doesn't mean you won't be able to go back and revisit, okay? So how these wounds interact, I just want to say, these wounds rarely exist in isolation. It's the mother wound teaches you to be small. The sister wound teaches you to hide. And the success wound teaches you to hold back. And together, they can create a nervous system wired for survival, obviously not expansion. So it's important for you to know, okay, maybe I don't really have this mother wound too bad. Maybe this is not a thing for me. But you can ask yourself, where did I pick up the sisterhood wound? At what point did that start to come into play for me, where I started to feel like I needed to dull, I needed to hide, or I feel anxious, I deeply want to connect, but I feel uncomfortable doing it, or all the things we talked about. At what point did the sisterhood wound activate for you? And then I want you to ask yourself, can you see the same flavor of how that might be connected, whether it's the mother wound, the sisterhood wound, how they're both connected to the success wound, right? What does it mean for you to rise up in success? And as a woman, what does that mean? And the moment you bring awareness to these patterns, you begin to interrupt them. You begin to make soul-aligned choices and not trauma-driven ones, okay? So I want you to check in with yourself. Again, which one felt the most active as you listened today? And where does your body react? You might have noticed tightness, a pull, or maybe just memory that happened, something that happened. Maybe you too tried to shake hands like you were a politician when you were 21, right? Awareness is the first step towards healing. So you deserve relationships where you don't have to shrink. They will exist for you. You deserve success that feels aligned and safe and expansive, and you deserve to be seen. You deserve to be supported and celebrated. And your next chapter begins the moment you just stop. You stop apologizing for your light. You just have to stop. And once you do, right, you'll see who shows up. Every time you choose yourself, you rewrite the lineage you inherited. So it's also up to you to stop bringing this forward in life, to change what you inherited by changing your beliefs, by changing your stories you tell yourself about it. That's your work. It's not other people's job to do that for you, right? That's your work. And a lot of times we are looking through these lenses as we look at our friendships, like, did you see that little weird eye she gave me when I told her my success story? Like, did you notice this? Like, you're too sensitive. You're trying to pick up on where you're going to be hurt. Your spidey senses are going because you're worried that perhaps someone's going to judge you, so you're looking for it. Stop looking for it. I don't even care if you're so freaking blind, you just can't see it. That's even better. Whatever they're going to do is what they're going to do. So just let yourself be blind to it. Don't look for it. Don't try to read into everything that's being said. Don't try to read the body language. Stop trying to intuit it, use your intuition to be like, they're not happy with me. Honestly, if they don't come forward and say it, they're big adults. It's their job to communicate how they feel. And it's not our job to assume and to create and to separate from people because they may be feeling this way. I want you to stop doing that. I want you to stand in your power, and I want you to choose yourself. I want you to step into your light. We need you. We need you to be in your light, shining bright. So thank you for being here and for doing this work and for choosing your expansion, because you wouldn't have clicked on this if it wasn't something that you wanted for yourself. So until next time, I want you to be gentle with yourself, but look out for how your rise is already happening. And just try to have as much joy and excitement for your upcoming success, okay? I will look forward to talking to you next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on Into the Work, Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the podcast and leave a review. It is the best way to spread this healing work to other women. Your presence here matters. Step into your power, heal your soul, and rise with women who are doing the same. Keep joining us every week, and together we can heal the world. If you're ready to dive deeper, grab your free Shadow Work Transformation Bundle in the show notes, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.